Okay, welcome to the inaugural Xpress AI stream.
Yeah, hey,
Everything looks
does this
everything looks
work?
good. Yes, how do streams work indeed? Okay, cool. So think there's no one in the chat,
Well,
but
it looks like Fariza is there.
there we go. Fariza is here. Hi, Fariza. You might know a thing or two.
Yeah,
Um,
let's see. Emotes. Very, very important. Things like that. Cool.
where do these emotes come from? That's amazing.
It depends on who you are following and stuff.
Ah, I see. So I have one-handed hero stuff. So I could send that emote. That's my friend Alberto.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So um, let's get started because I think we don't need to do any intros with nobody here.
Yeah, I guess
Anything
so.
like that. Yeah. So anyway, so the plan for today is super simple. In circuits, we have a pull request for adding loop support. There's branch support and then enable branching component. And they are okay, but if we look at the files changed, there's things where it like checks if this is a branch component or not.
Yeah, right.
And that's not, it's not really how it should work. Um, but this base component thing is perfectly fine. Uh, and yeah, but it shouldn't need to know that it's dealing with hold on. Okay, so that looked okay, but then the enable branching component. How did this work again?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure which branch is actually the main branch there. Because if I remember correctly, he added one at some point and then did another.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. So there's this one, right? And yeah, and then the thing that makes this stuff interesting is the validation, right? We had this validation that everything is connected in a line. And that's
Oh, and
useful.
Teresa is saying that there was a second one.
Yeah.
So
So I think this is the old one that was a lot more hard coded, right? There was only one branch component that was it, right? So like if
yeah,
node data type is branch, then add, if true, if false, and finished. And that's we don't want it to be something that's hard coded. We want it to be something that is, um, you define your custom branching component in Python, and then you can use it that way. So I think that was why this branch component should be kind of closed. So while this almost works, we've decided to rework how branching works. So we'll close that with this branch with that because it's not fun to leave them around.
yeah.
Okay, and then there's the other one, which I'm going to keep for now because I want to reference it, I think. But still, ideas that we would close this one. I guess. I mean, we could maybe merge it and then fix it up.
I'll
Um,
probably want to merge it to a different branch then, and not to main. You see that?
uh, motion of the channel.
Uh,
We
this is just that happens essentially everywhere. You start a new thing, and immediately you get some kind of offer,
Dogecoin.
get more whatever. At yeah, I think we don't need to buy anything.
Yes, don't want we don't want anything there. Yes, forget about that guy.
Yeah,
Okay, let me get Frieza into a mod in the channel because I think that'll be exactly what we want. Okay, so let me
probably.
log out, log in, and I can't really do anything from StreamYard, so
Yeah, that's something that you probably need to do uh, on there directly.
okay, cool. So let me go to channel. Is this going to do a lot of feedback? I hope not. Okay.
It shouldn't. You can simply turn off the sound.
Okay, then I will make mod Frieza. There we go. Cool. Cool. Now Frieza is a mod who can keep things in check when it comes to the chat.
Yeah. And you could
Okay.
turn me into a mod too.
Ah, yes. And I should turn myself into a mod. Mod.trio. No, I haven't set
Hey.
any. And then mod myself.
Okay, and apparently...
Cool.
Oh, that was me. Okay.
Okay. You made it colors only installment. There's also a way
Yeah, it's
to
like, do
do.
you want to do this? And it's like, what? Yeah, okay, why not? And it's okay,
Yeah,
you
sure.
just change the mode. It's what?
Yeah. Um, okay, so anyway, so let me bring up the old original um, experimental code. So in here, I think there was uh, yeah, so there was a should stop component, and then did I have any base? Let me see if I have any base components. I don't have any base components here, do
What exactly are you looking for?
I? So I had somewhere in one of my what's it called, prototypes. I had an implementation of branching that should work essentially, and I think it is not here, so it must be. Let me check. There was an XAI components.
I think the implementation that they have in the enable branching component PR isn't that bad actually. Or not that bad anymore.
yeah, this is where that came from. So, uh, and I wonder if this is big enough or if I should change it to presentation mode.
Yeah, it's
So,
given that we are kind of on the cheaper plan with StreamYard, that gives us only 720p streaming,
hmm,
and changing that to presentation mode makes it better.
okay.
Like,
So essentially, the idea here is component extends base component, right? So if you look at base component, um, you had some like set execution context, and then you had execute, and then there was do, right? And the idea was that do is the abstract method that everything would um, implement, and then do was how you would get it to execute. So essentially, the default do would be to call execute, and that's it. So the implementation of that is component. So it extends base component. It adds next, which is a link to another base component. And then its do method is to call execute. This is still an abstract class. It would execute and then return next, because that's what it does. It would execute its thing, and then it returns the next component that it should run. So
yeah, essentially
by
like
having
continuation passing.
exactly, so that's how it's implemented. Um, and then that way, the branch component is a base component, but instead of having next, it has two, when true and when false base components, and then a condition, which is an in arg, and its do would, check the condition, and based off of that, it would return the true component or the false component. So that way, it makes the execution switch, because the main loop is just calling do, gets the next thing, and then it calls a do of that until we get a null, essentially. And then the loop component would be a component, so it still has a next, but it also has a body, which is the loop body, the inside of the body. Still has the condition, and then this is kind of implemented with a while loop. So it's going to check the condition value, then it's going to do the next thing in the body, and then it's going to continue to do that until there's no next body, right? And that's the last thing in the body. Uh, and then it will return itself, and then it'll check the condition one more time because it's going to be done again. And if this is false, then it will return next, essentially. So I think that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense,
Yes.
because it gets to the end of the loop, and now we need to go back and check the condition and see if we're going to do the loop again. So that's why it does that. Yeah, so that's the idea of what we want. And unfortunately, in the real world, for like circuits, um, this loop is kind of problematic because we also have the debugger and stuff to think about, which it wasn't, it was still a to-do in the time that I wrote this, which was a ridiculous time ago, in like 2021.
Yeah.
So things might get a little hairy when we're implementing those things. But anyway, so we want to bring these things back, essentially. So let's go and do that.
Yeah, kind of feels like the hardest part there isn't that,
Mhm.
but rather the implementation in the circuit's body widget, which is a huge React component.
Uh,
And that's why I would probably start with what we had, like what Adri had done,
yeah.
and try
Did I
that out.
have? Yeah, I mean, I did have that in the in the Scala JS version, was it the Scala JS version? Either in the Scala JS version or the other version that I had, that did work. I could compile it to that. But let's see. Let's bring this to that presentation mode again. Presentation mode. There we go. Okay, so let's look into this. So first, let's go into the base components library. I think we should get rid of this.
Yes.
And this. Why do we have rotate counterclockwise component here?
Probably just as an example kind of thing.
I guess.
Frieza says it was an old sample.
This is an example. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to use git to the command line. So let's do add branching. Yeah, add branching. Okay, so we have, let's close those annotations. We have the in arg, we have the out arg, in comp arg, the XAI component thing, which is new, right? We have annotations for that. We still have base component, and next is implemented in base component. And there's this done thing, which I don't like. But I have the feeling it was added for some reason which I don't quite understand.
I
Ooh,
feel
and
like that has existed for like forever.
Can't remember why we had done. Was it a debugging thing? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it was a debugging thing. So I think that's good. Okay. Cool. So now we have a branch component and loop component, and loop component is an XAI component. So that's good. So let's think first. Add this in here. All files in this directory. I think we're gonna have to do that because PyCharm is going to try and be smart and do the nature of the beast. I don't think it can be very smart. Okay, but anyway, so these components are there and they're essentially the same, right? So if condition true, return this and false.
Yeah, right.
I think there's also the idea of done. Now these base components, they don't have a done, so they'll need one.
Uh,
Oh, why is this false? This needs to be a Boolean, right? Or Bool. It's amazing that even worked.
the type checking in Python is optional. So unless someone explicitly does a type check, it doesn't care.
Okay, and then return self.done and then self.when true. And then self.done when false. But where does done get set?
I have no idea.
Set that, and then return self.done self and self.done self.next. Okay, so that should bring everything up to date, I hope. Okay, and then we can go to these components, which are just examples, and I think we should get rid of those. It's gonna cause me pain, isn't it?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, they are kind of invisible anyway, because anything that doesn't have the XAI component annotation
Mm,
uh, gets ignored.
okay. Um, okay, so I'm here, the from Xpress AI components, base, import the things. Okay, so I think that we have everything we need from the Python side, in theory. And now we go into the other side. Okay, so we have the circuit factory, and then that's going to have all the signals. This is what creates the widgets. Then we have our buttons, the compile buttons, and then tray library. Do we have basic stuff? No.
I think kind of
Actually,
the branch had or
hmm,
the pull request had most of the things actually done.
hmm,
It needs mostly a thorough review, and then, at least from my point of view, the worst offender of anything in this code base is the string concatenation based Python code creation in JavaScript.
yes. But can't really do much about that right now.
Yeah, I know, I
I
know.
mean,
Just
yeah. Actually, so that means I have base, right? Then this added the subgraph executor. Um, and other than that, added a 1A, 1B, and the condition. And we got this alphabet switch. What if I merge that branch into my branch right now? We run it and then look at where things are. Because, okay, so we look at the node actions, right? This I'm not so sure about. This makes sense, I guess. Uh, then we have the source port, target port, flow. What was flow? One link per import. Okay, so that's just fixing that. And this looks okay. So if, for example, we can get the links. Then if it has a base component, but the thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a base component that it's connected to. It could be another component. Um,
that's true.
so I
Like,
think, and yeah, but
and
to
even
do the, go ahead.
it's even if it is something other than base component, like in principle, you should you yeah, you should be
Yeah,
able to have something that connects to anything, and you
Mm.
should be able to tell the type checker that you want it to be only a specific thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So
However, it doesn't know.
yeah, it doesn't know because it's not running in Python, and it really has no idea, right? So
Exactly.
that'll be like essentially it has to be a limitation unless there's a way for us to add an annotation to these things.
Mm,
But in general, like if we just say you have to, you have to make it be base component type, um, that just means that from the user's perspective, they can't have stronger typing than they would want. Because it's essentially anything that inherits from base component should be added as an output, right?
yes. In
Yeah.
principle, that is what we'd like to have. And I guess we could, in principle, collect that information.
We don't run the code necessarily, so we're not evaluating
Uh,
anything.
um, well, we are. What we do have there is what's its name? We do have the component parser, right? And that
Yeah.
one, in principle, can know what the base types are, and it could rebuild the hierarchy. Or it could simply not care, and we could have something else be the valid type for an output like that.
Yeah. Um, well, okay, let's go with base component for now. I think what we can do is make it so that it can take either base component or a component or um,
I mean, it would take whatever. Um, I guess that is just what the parser
ah,
produced at that point in time.
yeah. But okay, anyway, let's just merge it and then see what's going on. So I will get merge origin. Let me get
You did
stash
some
them.
changes.
Well, I haven't committed the change, and that's true. So
Yeah.
let me commit that. Components
But
base.py. Then I delete the other thing. Then I will call this update base component library. Branching components. Okay, then I will let me rebase origin. Then I should have no, so you didn't change it. There should be no problems doing that. Okay, so now we're up to date with that branch. Now we have base component. Parameter out, then outflow something. But because loop uses component, or did it use component?
I think it's using a base component.
Let me check. This oh, it has some. We got base component. Then we have the subgraph executor, which I think is fine to keep. Right. Okay, there's 2 lines between.
Am
And
I
then
kind of blind? I'm looking for the loop component. They can't find it. I can only find the others.
no, it's here, right? Yeah, so loop component, and its body is a component. And the reason why
Is that no
is there a
one
good reason why?
I think the main reason is that no one changed it. And that's why
Yeah.
I don't see it in the change in the pull request.
Yes, yeah. It's not in the pull request because it didn't change. And this has a body of component. Is there a good reason to say that this can't take a base component? And I think no,
In
because
particular, because it's do already returns a base component anyway.
yeah. And branch component, you can totally have a loop component with a body that goes to a branch component, right?
Yeah.
A branch component isn't a component, so this should be a base component too.
Why isn't branch component a component? Other than no one
No, no,
has put the annotation on it.
there is a reason, which is mainly that component defines next, right? And I wanted the branch component to not have a next, but to have a true or false.
No, what I mean is it doesn't have the annotation for it to be picked up automatically. The add XAI component annotation that is, if you scroll
Yes.
down, you'll see on the other ones.
I thought I added that just now. Anyway, so yeah, so it should have XAI component. It is a base, it extends base component, has when true, when false, done, boom. Okay. And then everything else works fine. Okay, so
It
let's,
looks like we have actually some viewers.
oh, that's nice.
It's actually 6 people watching this. Hey guys.
That's
Hello
hey,
everyone.
yes. So um, I think we'll need to give some people some context every once in a while about who we are and what we're doing
Yeah,
and
if
what
I
this
do,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it is important to maybe let's go do a demo.
Yeah, I guess
Uh,
we want to bring it up
let's
anyway.
see. Yeah,
Yes, we need
I
to
want to
check
see
whether
where it's
things
at.
work.
Um, I think I need to ask Frieza, or we can check the README. Yeah, so we have a beautiful README that was lovingly and created by our team to show us how to develop things like circuits core development. So if you want to learn how to work on this, then follow this guide here in the fine documentation. So I do think I have npm installed, and I need to activate the virtual env. So let me do that here. This is really bothering me. Let me
Yeah,
switch to something else. How about the setup pi or something like that? Okay. So to get this up and running, I'm going to let me source VM bin activate. So now I'm running in the VM. I think I was in the VM anyway, but just in case, you activate that. You make sure that you've installed the latest requirements. Let me update that. Must have been a little while.
yeah. And then make sure that you have yarn installed. Like I
Hmm,
always stumble over that
I see.
because I'm like, yeah, it needs npm. No, it needs both npm and yarn because Jupyter Lab is, eh.
Yeah. Okay. So do I have yarn? Yes, I do have yarn. Okay. And running yarn does something.
Yes.
It does
It's
npm install, I
probably
guess.
it's like several things that were there.
Yeah, but I think it's good. We wanted to. Jupyter Lab will do this for you, so you don't need to necessarily run yarn yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
but it needs to be installed. That was my
yeah,
point.
needs to be installed for sure. Okay, so while it downloads the internet, I can tell the viewers what this is. So this is Xircuits. So if you don't know what Xircuits is, um, Xircuits is a, whoops, my phone is ringing. Okay. So Xircuits is a drag and drop tool for Jupyter Lab that it's an extension for Jupyter Lab that allows you to drag and drop um, uh, Python components like this. The main idea we have is to create a kind of visual programming environment for Jupyter Lab that works the same way that blueprints work um, in Unreal Engine, but for AI. So not only are you able to kind of create any um, like Python script in a visual way like this, but we also have all the functionality that Jupyter Lab has for displaying things like you would in a normal notebook. So you're able to, give, for example, customers or less technical users something that they can run easily within Jupyter Lab, but still interact with. And it's not a big glob of code. It's instead, there's this thing and then it does this thing. It's a little bit more logical. So I think it's a little more user friendly for um, for other uh, less technical users. That's the idea anyway. And we do take a lot of cues from Unreal Engine, which is kind of where I kind of came up with this idea, which is when I started the company. You know, um, remember I had just used Unreal Engine to make a VR whiteboard app, and I was kind of, you just write on the walls and stuff like that. It was an infinitely large whiteboard. It was very cool. Um, and yeah, I was like jealous that the game developers have this kind of visual way of creating very sophisticated programs in Unreal, and AI, or and not just that, but like if you're making videos, you have Final Cut Pro, and if you make music, you have Logic Pro and these other applications. But if you're AI programmer, which is I would say in the same level, you just have Python, right? And I guess Jupyter Lab is quite an advancement compared to Emacs or whatever, arguable. But yeah, like you don't have the same level of tooling. And I thought that there should exist that kind of level of tooling. And that's why I made Xircuits. Okay, so Yarn has finished downloading the internet. And we can go into the next step in the fine documentation, which I think is to install the package in development mode. So you run this command, pip install e, current directory, and that will build things. And there's quite a lot of dependencies to build. And I only have 16 cores, so it might take a little while. Although I kind of wonder how fast this would be if I had like an M2 or something like that. But I don't. I have an i7.
I always feel like it's mostly about the I/O speed at that point. And then well, then you should buy the cheapest M2 machine because their SSDs are slow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am running a way too old version of Python, so I need to
No,
deactivate. I think I am.
are you
I'm like,
sure?
I remember. Um, so I created this VM that I'm using is quite old. I haven't run this in a
Ah, I
long
see.
time. So I think I'm going to nuke the VM and we'll start from scratch.
Okay.
And now the IDEs are going to freak out and I think that's fine. And then I'll do Python 3.8. Hopefully that's new enough.
Yeah, 3.8 should be new enough. I remember that with the older versions, you get into kind of the problem where the AST parser produces a different format, and it's kind of overall problematic.
Okay, so now I'm back into that, and then we got to go back up here. So first install the requirements into the new virtual environment. And some people might go like, "Oh God, it's so white," but web pages are white, and I really don't like that black and white flashing that happens when switching between things. So I'm a white background guy. Okay, so now with that, we have almost half the internet installed, and then pip installed this to get it in there, and then after that, we do Jupyter or Jupyter Lab extension develop overwrite. And then that will get us almost all the way. I kind of wonder if my workstation would be faster, but it's not a
Probably
Mac,
not
so
that much.
it's like it has two Xeons, but they're the shitty Xeons. They're not that great. So even though it does have twice the cores of my MacBook Pro, they run at a slower clock. And yeah, at least if you run Pystone, they're slower than this machine. So like the single core speed of my MacBook Pro is definitely faster, but I do think the all core speed of the workstation is a little bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, in the pip stuff, it's like downloading and extracting. And either you're waiting for the CPU on extraction or for the storage.
Mm.
Oh,
Okay, what did I do
interesting.
wrong here? Let's see.
Uh, you did enable the virtual environment.
Yes, I've installed that. And then Jupyter's. So let me check. So if I just run circuits now, if I didn't enable it, then it should be just empty. Um, we do have circuits file. And okay, so we do have some things. It is installed.
Yeah,
So
it
I guess we
is
don't need that.
kinda installed, but it is also missing the component library. Like that is
This,
empty.
this is this is the component library.
Right.
It does have the style, so it seems to be mostly installed. But the library is empty.
Now, can you hit? Okay, or go back. The 404 there may have been the interesting part.
Component.
Yeah, you see, when it tries to go and get the components, it's like, yeah, this does not exist.
Ah, yes. So that's what's missing because we have the Jupyter Lab extension is installed, but the server side things are not installed.
Right.
And that's what this should be doing. And it is
Is
not
this
because
what version of Jupyter Lab do you have there now?
We don't have Jupyter Lab version is 361. Hmm.
It doesn't seem out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is all
Try
server.
the rebuild step first. So GLPM build and then JupyterLab build, and then try to enable it again. It's 2 paragraphs below.
This thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that rebuild, I guess. Okay, so let's build. I think it might be best to disable this thing. Shut it down. Okay, so package manager build, Jupyter Lab rebuild. Okay. And that's gonna do some stuff. Then I forget if we're, so we need to run circuits and then one tab run this and then another tab run this.
Well, that would give you like live updates of
Mm.
things, if I remember correctly.
Let's give that a sec to run.
It's also like simultaneously indexing stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely something that would be much better with into.
Probably,
Okay,
yeah.
so I need to, so there was a conflict on base. I need to add that in there.
Or do we have like a halfway merged thing?
Yeah, so there was a conflict in base that I fixed, and now we're not yet fully merged, so that
Yeah, I
may
see.
or may not have caused issues. I'm thinking not, but merge, rebase from latest branch code.
Teresa says that he thinks that we used to use JupyterLab 3.4. So I'm going to check the release notes, whether there's anything that could be problematic for us.
Okay. Um, we are 3.4. We are using 3.6. Did we have a version in? So
Yeah,
we're
currently it's
assuming.
just like
Yeah, good.
yeah. Currently we are assuming that anything 3 point should
Something.
be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a
Okay.
fair thing to assume, whether we're right or not. Okay, so now we did that. Let's try to run that server extension enable. That did not work. So let's try to make it 3.4 based.
I guess so.
See if that fixes it. So lots of 4 stuff happening. And there's 3.6, which is the current latest. And there's 3.5. The last 3.4 is 3.4.8. So let's just do. I think we just pip install it, and then I'll. Yeah, so pip install Jupyter Lab equals 3.4.8. And if that fixes it, then we know that there's probably something else we got to do.
Yeah.
No, that didn't fix it. Okay, so never mind.
So where does that come from?
Let's try it one more time, and then
And
full
is
screen it,
the
because it's all in this, extension. It's not like there's any of our code in here. Why pi has no attribute after transaction event?
okay? So let's try to scroll up to the uppermost part. Yeah, that we have
Yeah, this is
here.
where we start. Then it's calling add extension. And it's importing stuff. And it's doing YPi WebSocket things. And then it got this attribute error. It says unable to start.
What is YPi?
This is YDoc, so related to graphing things. Not that.
It appears like it.
Yeah, so mainly a Jupyter Lab thing. Re-race extension failures.
Teresa suggests that we remake the virtual environment with the 3.4.6 version of Jupyter Lab.
Could.
Because it's probably full of kind of wrong dependencies at the moment.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, so let's make this be 3.4.6. No, now I'm kind of wondering because there's a YPi here, right?
An explicit
Y-
YPi dependency. Yeah. Are we using that for anything directly? Like, I think
so.
it's Y underscore pi.
In directory. We do have it in there. And I guess we don't necessarily need it explicitly in here.
It was.
I guess that's one. This is like probably frozen. I know it's not.
We've added it. Oh no, that is.
It's 4. Then so it's kind of recent. Anyway, let's give that a shot. So again, I'll deactivate, move the VM, wait for PyCharm to freak out. Okay, so I don't have anything newer than 3.8 on my system.
3.8 should be
So
fine.
source VM, hit activate, then pip install, where is the txt. Okay, so we have that installed. And I kind of feel like we probably need to install this package at
Yeah.
least, right? And then once we have that installed, should be able to run the server again. And yeah, metadata, installing the internet. Then we have the package. Then we can try this, which is taking longer than before, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, okay, so
Okay.
I guess it's incompatible with newer versions of JupyterLab.
Yeah, that's fun.
I guess
That's very
that is one more thing to add to the issues.
yeah. Uh, okay, so now we should be able to run circuits in its full glory. And I am running Safari, so things might not be so great. So anyway, so we have our circuits, we have things, and I can put some simple things. Let's put we have like a write string or something. Let's find it. There's a hello component.
Yeah.
There's a hello context, which is a little weird. So get rid of that. Save it and compile. Okay, and then if we look at the compiled, where did it compile it?
Yeah, untitled
Ah,
py.
yeah, doing that inside of XAI components might not be the smartest thing in the world, but it should be fine.
Yeah, but it does it wherever the file is.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so let's get rid of these. So let's delete those. Go back up here. Then I'll create circuits file. And let's see. So I don't see the branch component.
Uh, it's probably in the template. Oh, there's at least the hello component, so let's try to see that hello world works. It's the first one.
I like the one component. Okay. So hook that up. Please save before compiling. So saved it and running. Yeah, hello component, reach, finishing. So, okay, so that does run. So
Okay.
that's good.
Now let's take a
But
look where the branch component is, like in what actual directory.
they're in base, so I guess that makes sense. What
Yes.
would we want to call these?
Maybe
What were
something like
these?
structure.
Yeah, I think in UiPath, these things are called what are they called in UiPath? UiPath if statements. So there's the if activity in UiPath, and I think that was located in programming, I think. We could find it if activity. And then they also had like a switch activity and a while and a for each. They were called control flow activities. So I think that does kind of make sense calling it control flow. So let's do that. I'll create a folder called XAI control flow. Then in base pi, let's take the loop and branch component out of here. Then we put it inside a new Python file. Right. Then we'll call this branches. And then we also create an init, which we just need, I think.
Quick question to chat. How is the video quality? Like, can you read this good enough?
Sure, I can make it a little bit bigger. So let me copy the imports so that things import. Okay, so we got from base, in, out, in comp component, base component, and XAI component. Don't
Okay.
think we need any of the
Looks like
others.
it's readable enough now.
Okay. Cool. So now that we have a control flow Python module, we can possibly see it here. Yeah, there we go. Control flow. Perfect. Okay, so shift click that. So I should be able to do branch component. Get a branch component in here. And then we'll put a literal false in the condition. And then we'll put a hello component. Okay, so that's a problem. That's one of the things I didn't want to do there. But it does kind of make sense. Like there's when true and when false. And then
then
this
when
if
that's
statement
done,
could end.
where to go?
Yeah, it's like it's done, right? So it does make sense, but that was kind of the reason why I wanted to remove the component, make it a base component anyway. But regardless, let's say this works. So I don't want to do a hello component. I'm just going to put this to go straight to finish. And then when it's true, we're going to do a hello component.
Hey.
And when it's false, we're going to do
Use a hello hyperparameter component or something.
hello hyperparameter component. Oops. put hello hyperparameter component, and then we'll
because
put
now you
the
can give it something.
literal string, and it works. Okay, so we'll just hit that up there. These are not connected to the finish, but this is how it would work in theory. And then we get that condition is false. Branch component has no attribute condition.
Wait, what?
Let's check that out. So it does have a condition. Condition.
Let's take a look
But
at what it produced.
no, it doesn't, because remember, we need to also put the initializers in here, which it doesn't have.
I see.
So to see what a proper thing looks like, you can look at this one. You can see that we have zip, dir, name, include dir, and
yeah,
we
right. I
do
see.
have to initialize these things to their empty state, because nothing else is going to create them that way. So if we do this, so we do set the done to false, we make, so those two things we don't need to worry about, just the condition. So the condition is an inarg empty. And that should be happy for that. But similarly here, we should have a def init self.done is false, and then self.condition the inarg.empty. Yeah. Okay, so now we can save, compile, and run it one more time. It says, hello, it works.
And
But then it
then
failed.
it complains.
It cannot unpack a non-iterable non-type object.
Yeah, okay. It's that is while executing. So at some point we do. Well, we return a none.
Yeah, that's by design. But by design, but I think we have to return both, right? So done when true, done when false. When do we return a none?
When do we return a none?
No, we know why. Well, it's because of this next thing, right? So like the code itself doesn't have the thing, right? But we do run it this way. So if you do this, I think this will run. Compile it just to make sure. It works now. And it isn't this. That doesn't work anyway. Can't do
Yeah.
that.
So
I
it
did it
goes
when I
to
did
hello
it.
hyperparameter, and that's where it
Yeah.
gets
Oops.
the none.
One component. Okay. And then after that, we're just going to finish, I think. Okay. Now, if I take this literal false and we convert it to a literal true, and man, that is slick. That makes life so much easier.
If it's like
That
only
is
one
hello
possible
component.
thing.
Yeah. Okay, so it's almost working. So that's the thing. At least, right? It's working. But
So I think
next
we
component
had
do.
the subgraph executor for that particular reason.
Aha. Yes. That's a good point. Let's go back to a real
We're
man's
not
ID.
using it, maybe.
Yeah, we're not using it because we're like overriding the we're hijacking the execution inside of the branch components, right? And the subgraph executor.
Yeah, that one is used in a, like the code for it is produced in a special case.
But I guess this makes sense. So while not is done or comp is not none, we're going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And then if we look at the branch component, or yeah, we're looking at the branch component. It is simply okay. So this doesn't hijack it. Loop does hijack it. So I have the feeling loop component would actually work already. So let's do that. But we need a thing. And do we have a thing here? So chart, what was it? Should stop. So should stop is an
We
interesting.
can do our loop still with an if or with a true or false, I think. Like we don't need to
Well, if we put
go.
true, it'll be an infinite loop, and then if we have false, then it won't go into the loop. Or actually, no, oh yeah,
Right.
then let's do the thing. Okay, so let's go control flow, do a loop component. We add that, and then we don't have variables, do we? I don't think we ever got to variables.
I don't think that we have them.
Yeah, but anyway, so this goes to the end, and then in let's see, where does the hello component live? Actually, now I think about it, it doesn't really matter that much. So let's do a hello component, right? Just to see that the hello component is run, and then we need something that.
It just go into an infinite loop. Or you mean it's not going to fail because in the infinite
Yeah,
loop it's just fine.
yeah, exactly. So let's make something component class counter component, which is a component, and it will have a number. There's an inarg of int. And put start number. I'll call it a decrement component. Decrement component. So we start and then out number, which is an out arg of int. Init, which will set self.done equals false. Self.start number is an in arg.empty. Self.out number is an out arg.empty. Def execute self ctx. That I've been doing too much skull. I don't know how to write this anymore. Okay, so we do execute, and then so this thing will have the state, which is the int, right? Then when we execute, self.state is equal to self.start number.value. State Yeah, we'll put an increment, like it's a weird component, right? You just set it to a positive number and it'll count down. So we have if self.state is equal to -1, then we set it to the start number value, and else self.state and minus equals 1, then self.out number.value is equal to self.state.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the problem with done, right? When you have a looping component, yes, it's done now, but then something has to reset that done when we come back to this, right? So that,
Yeah, but I think we just will have to revisit the debugging functionality anyway. The way that it is currently done is works only in the cases where it's like a very simple thing.
so let's make a 5. And then in control flow, we should have
Right.
a decrement component, right? So after hello, we start with 5, and the out number goes to the condition.
Yes, and we now need to compare that number.
Yes. Okay, hold on. So that's let's go. Okay, so it's decrement, but essentially whatever, out number and then is positive, right? Out arg bool. Self dot is positive. It's equal to arg dot empty, and then set value says self dot is positive is equal to self dot state is greater than 0. It's greater than equal to 0.
Okay.
Dot value. Okay, so that should work. And now
You need to refresh there too.
refresh here, decrement component. Okay, so if we
Oh,
put
Risa
that
says you
in,
can right-click to update components.
I need to give myself more room here. Reload node. That's sweet. Okay, so this is the end of the line for this body, but then is positive can be connected there, and it should work. And it doesn't work. Why?
Do we have some kind of condition that things cannot go back?
So we have some sort of validation. Did we have the context stuff? We do have hello context, but okay, so let's make so you have XAI component. So let's make an XAI component for setting and getting variables, which I don't like, but it will work in this case. So we'll have get, so set variable component, right? And then it takes a variable, we'll put name in arg stir, right? And then this will go into the context and then set something. Then it's false self dot name is equal to an in arg dot empty. And def execute self ctx And so
It also needs
CTX,
like
say it
it
again.
needs another thing. Like it needs the value to set.
Yes, that is true. Yes, yes. And then value. And this is where the typing gets a little funky. Value is equal to in arg dot empty. There we go. And then what was context?
How did context work? Yeah, I have no recollection
Um,
of that whatsoever.
we have context. And context is passed in here. And it's passed in here. And is it a dict? I have the feeling it's just a dict.
I think it was a dict. Mansour also says that it is a dict.
Okay, so it is a dict. So we'll just put context.
Yeah. And Fariza
And
is linking us to documentation.
that is perfect. We can look at the documentation. This
Yeah.
is great documentation. Circuits.io docs, technical concepts, context. Yes, here's the context. Then we put context update, context dict. Okay, so, but is it a dict or does it have an update method?
Well, dicts do have an update method, if I remember
Oh,
correctly. And we kind of want to always mutate it in this sense.
yes.
Yeah.
So it would be like self.name.value is equal to self.value.value. And that's it. That's what set variable component does. And then we have a very similar get variable component, which
And the value
has
is an out
name.
arc.
Yeah. So this is an out arg, right? And then this will take self.value.value is equal to context.self.name. Something along those lines, right? So now if we reload everything, we go here, we have set variable component, get variable component. So problem is those aren't really components. They're kind of like special stuff. The main reason uh, is we will have the same kind of problem, but
I think the get variable
it should
component
be,
should be able to.
yeah, it's a little funky, right? Like, so I'm gonna give it the name
Ah,
counter, right? So it's like it
yeah.
runs and it gets counter, which doesn't exist, right? So before we can get that, we need
We
to
need to
set
set
it
it,
to.
but then it won't re-get it on the loop.
It will re-get it. Well, okay, so it doesn't actually re-get it, but this value does get updated. Weirdly enough.
I think it won't.
Uh, we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to set the variable with 5. Or no, we don't want the number is the number. This value, it's not counter that we don't want to call it
Yeah, it's
counter.
done.
Yeah, is done is what we want. Okay, so we'll do is done. That's the name here. That's the name here. And the
The
value
initial
is going to
is
be
false.
a literal. false, or no?
Yeah, let's use a literal true there
No.
and name it not is done, but is running or something.
Yes, it is running. Okay. So I call is running. Then this get variable component is there. Then we do the body, we decrement, and then we do another set variable component. The name is the same, is running. Oops. Let's zoom out here. Okay, so it is running. It doesn't have to be that. And then we're going to set that to is positive. And then that's it. So then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
well then the loop is going to run, but it's not going to do this. But it doesn't actually run because this is, we're linking up these values. So since this is setting that value, that might, okay, this is not, it's probably not going to work now that I think about it.
We
Because
can
the
make
get,
it work, but it's going
can
to
make it
be
work. But, okay,
funky.
yes. None type in int. Okay, that is a problem. The start number needs to be 5. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
see if it runs. I'm pretty sure it won't now that I think about it. Um, none type has no let me do. So we did run it twice. No,
Uh,
so you set get
we
hello
only
decrement,
went,
set.
yeah, decrement, and then it doesn't follow.
Uh,
Let's take a look at the generated code for a moment,
so
because we are kind of not getting even into the problem that we expected to run into.
yeah,
So on C3 and C6, we have an explicit none as the follow-up.
yeah.
We know
So
that, yeah, it is using the subgraph executor in C3, and it tells it that C4 is going to, well, execute that, and there. So why is the next on C3 none? What is C3 even? C3 is the loop component. So we tell the loop component that nothing follows it. Can you switch back to the circuits file then? And
yeah, I guess that's just because it is finished, right? But if we put a hello component,
yeah,
um,
that's probably. Yes, let's have that. Just so
yeah,
we and try to run it.
okay, so we get to the set. Don't
And it is
do,
actually within the subgraph executor.
yeah.
And the do of the component that it is trying to run has produced a none.
Because while not is done. So we are never
Now we have two things. It's while not is done or comp is not none.
right. And because it's an or, not done, which is or is done
No,
is
that's
false. So that
it's like two nots. So
yeah,
while can we
is
turn it
done.
into something that has fewer not?
Yes, I agree. That would probably be best. Okay, so if you go to subgraph executor,
Uh, that is not the subgraph executor. That one is.
okay, so while done and comp is none.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah. It is done false. Let's get rid of this is done thing for now.
Yeah.
So while comp is not none, we're going to do the thing.
Yes.
Okay. And that did not update anything at all.
Non-type object has no attribute do.
Now, yeah, now it's working. It's setting, and yeah, now we're stuck into an infinite loop. Now,
Yeah.
why is it an infinite loop? Because the get variable component is never getting the thing, and so this.
It's never getting it again. So it's
Yes,
stuck at true.
exactly.
We
And
could
if
have
we
a
could,
value like okay, let me formulate what I want to
can't
say.
do it. Yeah.
What we
Whoops.
can do is instead of setting the actual value, we
Mhm.
set a value holder. So we're going into the mutable state all the time situation.
Yeah. The
And
way
ideally, given
the way
that
to
all of
madness.
this is declarative, we wouldn't. But
Yeah.
let's
But I
still try
guess
it.
I know how to. Yeah, I know how to do so. The get variable. So
So
we
within set,
Mhm.
like the easiest way, within set, make it equal to a dict that has the key value.
So many values.
And
Right?
no, it's actually
Um,
even worse than that. First, we check if it exists. If it exists, we update the value.
mhm. If context, this we need to do. What was it in? Was it get?
I think we can use an in. So if a
Ah,
self-name value
yes.
in context,
So if self.name.value in context, or if
then
not,
we do an up. Yeah, if not, it's also fine. But I would probably do. I prefer to have as few nots as possible.
yeah,
So context
then
self-name value, then another value.
value is equal to self.value. Then
Yeah.
yeah, that makes perfect
And when
sense.
we get it, we
We set
now this is our
yeah,
problem because on one hand
yeah,
we have updated an existing thing, but here
yeah. We kind of need to
uh,
get we need to make a getter essentially. So we can make a mutable out arg.
but it won't work.
Not work if I set a get
Uh, the
on
problem is
value.
that it expects just some kind of like integer or whatever on its input, and not an actual, class that is read. So it because it expects a simple type. I guess we can't just invent variables that easily.
Yeah.
Um,
But if so, essentially, if we had an out arg that when you called dot value on it, it would get the context. So essentially what Python cares, it's going to use this dot value, right?
Yeah.
So if we just set this outarg thing to be something that when you call dot value on it, um, executes a lambda type of thing, then
Yeah.
that would work. And you have to call it once, essentially, to get it. But then after that, the outarg is always going to, you know,
Reflect the value
do
of
do
that.
everything.
Hmm.
Now, doing that will be a little funky.
Yeah, I think we don't need to do the thing that we did in set variable component if we can go that way. Like the if else thing, we don't need to add another layer of value in that case.
Yeah, so set variable component will just set the thing in the context.
Yeah, and you can remove the last value there.
So self.name.value is equal to self.value. Okay.
But when you use get variable component,
Then get variable component will have a value.
the way that this is, can you quickly look at the generated code again, just so we and the chat can see what's going on?
Okay. So we'll go on here. Pi.
Okay, so when it comes to values, we have.
Yeah, so like you can see that C3's condition is set to C2's value, right?
Yes.
So even though this is an
And
out arg and then
C2's
this is an in
value
arg,
is never set until
yeah.
it is
So we need,
executed. Okay.
yeah, right. So there's like a weird state thing that we're kind of like shrouding over, but I do think it's possible to make this work somehow.
Can we take a look at how out arc and in arc are defined?
Oh yeah, they are just like a holder for a value.
Okay. They literally have nothing special there. Okay,
Exactly.
that is
So
something that we can do then.
mutable value, which
We
uh,
need an accessor for
yeah,
the value there.
if init. So a mutable value, let me just pass this. Then we have, oh, how do you do that in Python? Getter, setter.
You can have the get utter and set utter thing.
So we have, how do we do that again? Okay, yeah, so there's a property, and that's the getter, and then the name dot setter is the thing, right? So when we're doing this, let's say we have a property def value self. Yes, and then we return uh,
Self dot
calling f,
underscore. I
something like
think
that, right?
so. Wait a second. All we need to for this to work is that we have a mutual object shared between both the thing that reads it and the thing that sets it.
Yeah.
So we don't even need to call that particular function because the function is already being called and its name is value. So we don't even need the context in this case, I think.
Yeah, hold on one sec. So have var name, which is a stir. So what I was thinking, self.ctx is equal to none, self.var name is equal to none. And when you set it, you do self.ctx, ctx, and then self.var name is equal to name. And then when you get it, we do self.ctx name, self.name.
Why not
Right?
reduce the context for holding the value if you can literally make this thing hold the value? So when we set the value, we set it as in the context in this case.
Yeah. Well, actually, so here's the thing. So what you're talking about is how it could work. If I put is positive and I could hook it up here, which you can't, but if you can, this is positive thing, um, it's just a value. So and it will stick around. So if we update this is positive later on, then this works. It starts off as empty, then we update it, and this thing and this object are always going to be the same. But it's currently preventing us from doing that because,
I know,
I
but
mean,
I
it does
mean,
kind of make
even the set variable, so set and get variable can still work that way. So when we set the variable, we set the mutable value there. And that, so we are setting something into the context and it is a mutable value.
Mhm.
Next, when someone gets it, we get it
Mhm.
from the context and it is still the same mutable value object. And when something calls value on it,
Mhm.
we will get the value. And when we set it again, we update the same mutable value object. Because that kind of goes into the same idea that I initially suggested. But
Mhm.
the difference there is that I didn't know about the value.value thing, or rather, I forgot about that. Actually,
Mhm.
is there even a good reason for us to store self.value.value? Why don't we store self.value?
You mean here? You mean, or yeah, because
No,
like
no.
these objects are essentially moved around, right?
Yeah.
So
So
these
can you go back?
to this one.
Yeah. To set variable.
This one.
Yeah. So when we execute it, we currently set the actual value of
Ah,
this thing in.
yes.
Yes.
We can just set
So when we
this to be
do
the
that,
value. Then we don't
and
necessarily need this. I'll leave it there,
yeah,
but then get will set its self dot value dot yes set dot value is that,
yes. What if we
and then
do it
anything that
that
calls
way?
value would get the same thing. And then we don't need this craziness.
Exactly.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
They don't.
They Okay, so that was a lot faster than I expected.
I didn't go for 5 times, it went for just 1.
Because condition is not connected to anything. Yes, that would do it.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. Okay, and save, run.
Did you recompile it?
Okay, so set, get, execute hello.
Yeah, our initial value seems to be off.
So we are setting is running to true and getting. Okay, so let's give ourselves a little bit more printf
Let's check
debugging ability.
the... Yeah, I think this isn't actually the problem now. I think the problem is actually our loop component. Let's check how it checks the value there. So it goes for self-condition.value. And let's take a look at the generated code just for... Okay, our loop component is C3. So C3 condition is set to C2.value.
C2.value.
And we are overriding C2.value within C2. So now condition is pointing to the value that C2.value used to be.
Yes. And that's why there's the dot value.
Right.
C2 dot value, and then we overwrite. Okay, so that's why in set get override it here, and then that's not gonna, it's not going to work.
Yeah. So what we need here is a special kind of value.
Yeah,
So
something that,
this is where we need the mutable value now.
yeah, we
And
shouldn't delete it.
no, but we can have a simpler one.
Yeah. So what we need is essentially a value that
Let's try it.
always put a context on.
Your
Make
thing,
sure.
like, let's make it as simple as it possibly could be.
Mhm.
So let's have a class mutable variable. A class, you currently have a def.
Whoops.
And let's have just a self dot value, self dot underscore value. That is going to hold the actual value. No, let's start with that. Yeah, none or something. Yes, fine at first. Now we have the property with value self. You just return self dot underscore value.
And then value dot setter.
That will just set the value. And now when we define our get variable component, the self.value isn't going to be an odd arg. It's going to be the mutable variable. And when we now set self.value.value, it should be updating that wherever it is used. Set variable is probably fine where it is, but for our get variable, instead of doing self.value, it would be self.value.value. And I think that will work again, because if we look at the generated code, we set
We're
the
setting
loop
the.
condition.
Should this be value.value?
I think it should be value.value because that goes through our setter. And in
Yes.
oh wait,
Yes.
when we set it, yeah, we just set it into the context, but when we get it, we actually change the mutable variable through its setter.
Yeah.
So self.value is still the same thing.
It's the same thing.
But
And then that gets overwritten.
almost there, but I think I've got what we want. When we get the variable, we don't actually want to set, or don't necessarily want to set the value. We want to give it a method of getting that value.
Right. So we get the variable. Yeah. So what we want is a thing that can take context.
Forget the context. Let's
Well, I
give it
mean, yeah.
literally a function to do whatever it needs to do.
Okay, that works too. So we have some fn. Then we'll make self dot fn equals none. And then we can put a set fn type of thing.
Yeah.
Which takes some sort of function, and then we do self dot fn. And then when we get, so we don't need the setter anymore, right? Essentially,
Right.
you don't care. And then when we set, or we get
When we
the
get, we
value,
just
instead
call
of
self
doing
fn.
self dot fn, we call it. My computer's getting slower and slower.
Do you have an infinite loop going on in the background?
Possibly. I'm not 100% sure. It does look like the battery is like not charging.
Oh
That
yeah,
could
in
that could
that
be a
case, you
problem. That's not
probably
ideal.
have that.
Might need to give it a little more juice from the brick instead of from the dock. So I'll get that ready. But yeah.
Apparently in 14
So
hours.
yeah, finish charging in 14 hours. That's crazy. But it is charging now, so that's good. I'll leave the brick on standby though.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so we call the function here. And then we don't need a value at all. We just have a function. Then when we get it,
So when we get it, we
yeah,
literally set self value dot get fn set fn so that we can give it a lambda which gets the value from the context.
sorry. This is kind of slowing down. This web page is significant energy. Yeah, let's give this a restart real quick.
Yeah, just in case that you have an infinite loop going on somewhere.
Yeah, we can do these things with a real IDE after all.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's too.
So this mutable variable. Okay, so we have here then get. Instead of this, it calls what did I call it again? Set fn
Set underscore fn.
is lambda, and then it just gets.
You still need to like that is a proper function. It doesn't have the property thing on it.
Oh, something like this.
Yes.
Okay, and then this will be gotten like any other thing, and then set it in the context.
Exactly.
Okay, so that seems reasonable. Okay, start the thing. Okay, so assuming, let's just compile it. Assuming everything went well, this should do something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That worked. Great.
right. That worked. That worked. Cool.
So we
Now,
have a loop component and variables now.
yes,
Kind of janky, but
it is janky, and in my prototype, right, it was possible to do this. Now, doing that comes with the caveat, like, okay, well, before you run this thing, what is the value, right?
right.
But yeah, like when you do set this in terms of the graph, it just sets those values to each other, so they just all eventually end up being the same thing. Um, so I guess it's true that if you have something with like a lot of loops and multiple things being set, now things get funky, right? Like now it doesn't work. So um, while it is a little janky, it is a little more robust, I guess, because now you have, you need, whenever you need to go backwards, well, now you need to like define a variable. You need to set it, you need to initialize a variable at least to something and then get it. Um, and then, then it's like, but then this is not actually running. So
Kind of is.
probably, yeah. But if you look in Unreal, get variable and set variable are not triangle things.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
They're the same type as literal string, right? So like literal string, these things are special cases
Yeah.
of stuff, right? So get and set variable are these, so that they can be run at any time, and that kind of makes sense, right? So they kind of work like functions. Um, and essentially, since what we created was like a value that sets a function and returns it, then that's kind of how it works. Um, But yeah, so you have like a place where you can create your variables on the side and then you put them in there. And that does work over there. Um, but yeah, so like they also have this idea of these kind of functions that you can connect to, and that
Hmm.
is more reasonable, right? Um, than what we have here because you need to always get something. Unless we make the set variable component be like an initialized variable component, and then that's not too bad, you know. If you had,
Yeah,
for example,
give it an initial value, and
and it just returns this thing.
then you could read from it too. Like we could have something that is. Uh, I was thinking about having like a defined variable thing that you can
Ah,
then set values to, but
mhm. No, that works
I mean,
perfectly fine.
reading from one thing is possible, like multiple times.
Yeah, they have like a defined variable component that then has uh, let's call it a reference out.
Yes.
I think I'm pretty sure my computer needs more juice. Like
Okay.
it's taking like seconds to register my keystrokes. I think it's like on super low power mode or something like that.
Okay. Give it more
And
juice.
that's why Apple went with it, making their own CPUs because Intel's just like if you actually use this thing, it's dropping.
Yeah. That is why desktops are still great.
That did not sound very happy. I think this will do.
Okay.
Okay,
We
so
actually still have 4 people watching us.
oh wow,
Kind of surprised, given that we're just, you know,
how
messing about.
yeah, riveting content is what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, now that definitely feels better. Okay, so now we have a ref, which is an out arg of any, right? And then we'll have self dot ret ref defined here as immutable variable. But then it makes me wonder, does get variable still work? I guess so.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I mean,
when we
they
execute,
all should still work, I think.
it should be
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
that. Okay, and then in our circuits, we can get rid of this funkiness. Give this a refresh. Now we have a defined variable component where, whoops, let's go back. Okay, so we hook that up. We give the name is running. The initial value is true. The reference goes here. And then we go to the loop component. So now we have defined a variable. We go into the loop, right? Save it, compile, run. Sometimes I feel like the compile and run buttons should be more on the left, so that makes it
Yeah.
easy to click all three at once. And we broke it.
Okay.
Inarg has no attribute set function.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Because
That makes
you set it on self value, but it should be on self ref.
yeah. Okay. compile, we run that. And yeah, now that works. So well, that's not too bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we have variables, things like a decrement component, and I guess I guess we probably want an increment component or something, just for completeness sake. So I'll do that real quick. So put an increment component. Then this is positive. It doesn't really make sense for that, but we'll start with that. Do out, set the state to be plus, set state to be yeah, 0, I guess, and then we execute if state. I don't know. We'll put screw this whole thing. Okay, so state is in any that starts off as none, and if self.state is none, then we set the value, and then else plus equals 1, return the out.
Do we have any kind of comparison component?
No, but we should, I think, and then that way we can get rid of this is positive
Yes.
weirdness.
And then we could even get rid of decrement and increment component. It would be like a counter component with a step size.
Oh, okay. That's kind of what I was originally going for anyway. We have a counter component that has a start number, step size, or I guess we'll just call it step.
Yeah.
In our int, step is in our empty. And then we'll do this non-businesses. I think that's a little bit better. If state is none, and self.state is equal to the value, else plus equals step, self.step.value. Okay, and then we have a comparison component. If I can spell, there should be two S's. No. Yes, there's only one English. Okay, so you have a comparison component, and that is going to take
A value and a reference. And
an up.
an op.
And then an out should be a bool. So A, B, up, in self dot out on empty. Then the execute would be if up self dot op dot value is equal to, say, less than. And then this is something where it's like, oh man, we probably should have like a drop down in the things, and I think we can do that pretty soon later, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. self dot a dot value less than self dot b dot value.
Can we do that in a slightly less repetitive way?
Like evaluating stuff, you mean?
Yeah, I'm mostly thinking about something along the lines of, I mean, not actually eval. That's
It'll work.
probably evil.
Yeah, probably very evil, but it will definitely work.
What I
And work for
was
a while.
thinking about was more like, have a dict that has all supported ops and lambdas as the value, and then we get that function and just call it. I mean, we can use eval because, I mean, people are creating code anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to get rid of the decrement component.
It's no longer there.
And
So we have a defined variable component.
Refresh.
We're going to have a comparison component.
Yeah, the comparison component will be interesting in a second. So first we need the counter component. And its initial value is 5. Its step is -1.
-1.
And its out number should go to the comparison component.
Yes. Then b should be 0.
Yes.
Then op can be equals.
I think it should be larger than.
Yeah, larger than 0.
And our out should go to set variable.
Yeah.
And I think we have our set variable sitting around there. Yeah, the one and the...
This should work too.
Okay, but then we can get rid of the one that's not connected to anything properly.
Yeah. That works. And then you can save, compile, and we run it. B, the value is blank. That's definitely invalid syntax. How did that happen?
Okay, what is C5?
So B. Okay.
Why does it like... Is literal integer kind of broken? Or, well, it is empty.
Oh, it looked like a 0, but it wasn't actually a 0. Okay, that's a...
Yeah, it was the placeholder.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's kind of like a bug, I guess. Okay, and then no way to
Frieza
do...
says he's hearing double audio, and I guess I'm hearing double audio too.
Oh, let me switch to my headphone or something.
Let's see. Yeah. Now it sounds like it is better. I guess, Frieza, what do you say? Yeah. Okay, great.
Cool. So that eval was a little too... it's not evil enough. We gotta cast everything to stir.
I think it's because of the value that we're missing. Or I don't know. No, That's not it.
It's here. Yeah, and I guess technically we probably want to. I'm not sure if we want to do that. I probably don't have to. Probably better if we did encase it into parentheses, but we don't necessarily
But
have.
it would be even better if he didn't use eval.
Yes, but I like being even. Yeah, there
Okay.
we go. So yeah.
How many do we have? 1, 2, 3.
Actually, you know what we need? Um, we need a print component. There. I don't know where it would be though. Like, I guess it kind of should be in general, but we don't
I mean, what do
have
you want
really
to even print?
whatever, right? Like just a console.log component
Okay. I
is
guess
something that
just
we
a
really should.
value.
Yeah. So I think we'll need. Let's put that at the top here. So we have an XAI component class print. What's it called? I think in blueprints it's called a debug, right? Blueprints.
Do we want to simply like pass through a value through it, or
Yeah, it's like a print. It's just like a print statement, just to be able to log something. Maybe you could call it log. Yeah, log component. Then
you
it
don't need
has
to
a.
like put the component suffix on everything?
We don't. Okay, and then the message, which should be in any
And in arc any.
in arg of any that's um, initialized to empty. Then execute. We simply print self the string representation of self.message.value. And that's it.
Yeah, I think so.
And then when we do that, we could, for example, get rid of this hello component, go to the counter component, and then
And we
before
print the out number.
yeah, we print the out number. How do I want to select all these things? It looks like a thing. Then we need to do a quick refresh. Utils log message in there.
And we want to also move the out number to the comparator.
Yes, very important. I don't like the name log. We should name it maybe like print 5. Log has no attribute done. I really hate that done thing.
Yeah, we certainly should revisit the way how debugging works there.
Okay. So we do that. Log has no attribute done. It doesn't? I thought it did.
Didn't you just said that? Yeah.
No, it's false. Okay. Did we reuse the same context? I don't think so. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, no. Great.
Cool. What do you think on the name log? I look at this and I think of
Call it
running
whatever you want. Just like call
log,
it
log,
print.
log. Print. Yeah, I think we'll call it print.
But now if you refresh it on the circuits, it's going to be still called log.
Log. But no matter. We can just call it print. Call it debug print. Or just print. Because I have the feeling in. I mean, it's not really debug. It is definitely debug in Unreal, right? Because this is it's not the game, but in here, not necessarily, just printing to the log. Okay, cool. So we have a looping component, I think. That's perfectly fine.
We could also have a branching component.
Yes, we should check the branching component. Okay, so let's say we have a loop. Now it's 0. And
Do the decrement.
branch. Okay, so after the loop, we can
use the same variable.
Yes. We'll put the same variable in here. And then we can have, I don't know, well, let's just do a quick print for the true and print for the false, right? And the message here would be it's true, right? And then the message here would be it's false.
You need to put the quotes around it.
Yeah. Okay. And then when true, we go here. When false, we go there. And then when we're done, we go here.
And we expect it to come up with
Error was scanning. I have the feeling it's true. I see. No, we don't need to surround it with quotes. It's like
started with quotes. That's
like you start with a quote or start with a number.
Yeah.
I'm the one that had that crazy idea.
And it came back to bite you.
Yes. It's false.
Yeah.
And we're done. We die. But it makes me wonder, okay, so if we do it the way I originally planned, which was to go here or here, we can't. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can't have multiple things, then this is how it needs to work. And so we need to update the branches. So this thing,
they're essentially fine. It's something about this I guess we should just take another look at the generated code and the error that we get.
So let's run it. Okay, let's see the error. And so we have, well, next component is done, right?
Okay, line 57.
57. So that's in this loop here.
Yeah.
And
our do for the next component returns none. and the component before it, like what is can you, so we have an executing print. Yes, the last thing that we did.
Yes. So that would mean
Um,
we are here. That's false. And I think this
well,
is,
but are
yeah, this is
we?
no.
Can you can you put a print before the component? So before we call that, just so we know that we are actually there.
In here? Or,
In the generated code, and then run it just
oh,
with Python directly.
okay. Uh, so we want to put it in the while loop, you mean?
Yeah.
Uh, what do I want to print?
Next component.
Okay, whatever. Now let's open up a terminal.
I guess you could have run it from the run menu.
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never done that, but should work like this if I can spell it
If
correctly.
you, yeah. Okay. So it was running the subgraph executor. And the subgraph executor is what returned none. Let's
Hmm.
go there. And yes, it isn't returning anything at all from its do method. I guess what it should be returning is done, comma none.
Hmm. Return is done. No, none. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. There's no attribute 2. Next body dot 2. Where is this? In branches dot py. Line 36. Next body
Yes,
do.
because it
Okay,
calls
so this
do,
is.
and that isn't aware of the is done stuff. And I guess it should then set. I have no idea.
I don't
The is
understand
done
that.
thing is weird.
Okay,
Yay.
cool. Now it's working. Um, so now if we compile and run it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's false, and we still what is done next component next one to do cannot unpack non. That didn't happen just now, right? Make sure that we're not reusing the notebook thing. Okay, definitely new kernel now. And it's done. Okay, cool.
Yeah, great.
Sweet. So I think we have almost everything I wanted to do done pretty much.
Yeah, I
Have
think so.
that. Branching works. We did have to change it, but otherwise I don't see that there's much in terms of bugs that we have to
Yeah,
worry about.
I think the main thing that we really need to do, if we dive into this again, is the code generator, because
Yes.
while it does work, it does so barely.
Yes. Substitute the version to one that works without server some extension. Okay, then I need to double check with this TS build info thing. in a sec.
Yeah, that
For the
is
component.
something about TypeScript. You can probably ignore it.
Okay, and then I want to add XAI components. Everything in them. Right? And then that gives us base, control flow, and utils. Control flow components. Control flow, yeah, control flow and variable setting components. Okay. Then I guess we can, I mean, it's in the repository, so, and it does seem to have something.
Yeah, maybe it shouldn't be in the repository.
Yeah.
Because that looks very much like
It's like a lock file of some sort.
it's a log file for type definitions.
Hmm. Can I get our emit? F?
And probably add it to the gitignore file.
Yeah. So let me get commit that right now. ts config ts build info. And
And supposedly you are still on a detached head.
ooh, why am I in a detached head? Was I in a detached head here?
Yeah, it suggests that you're in an interactive rebase since forever.
Oh, I didn't commit the rebase.
Apparently.
Oh god. Okay. Now let's go to the dot get ignore ts ts. I guess
Yeah,
now
it doesn't
ts.
have that.
Okay. What was that? And then get more ts build dot or ts ignore. Okay, there we go. And the lock file. I think we can ignore the lock file.
Yeah, we can ignore that one for now.
Okay. So right now I'm on this add branching branch, but it's essentially an extension of it's an extension of the pull request. So maybe I can just push
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, I hope it works because of your rebase. Um,
Origin.
you need to remove the column between add
Origin.
branching and origin.
Add branching. Add tree new branch.
Yeah, did that work?
New. New
No,
branch
it
comp
did.
is what it was called, but I pushed
Ah,
it to new branch. It's supposed to be a new branch comp.
okay. And
Okay, yeah, and then it added the things.
it kind of added a lot of other things too,
Did it?
like the 1.6 release, 1.61 release. And now you have merge conflicts going on.
That is annoying. My add branching starts from, I guess it starts from master. So it does add these things. But I think that's okay, right? Because like this branch is old and there
Yeah.
have been changes. So we've rebased and then we have
I
this.
guess if we want to merge that to master, we just have to do that manually.
Mm,
Because it's kind of interesting because on one hand it tells me there is conflict, on the other hand it tells me, well, there are none.
yeah. What is the, just mark it as resolved and it should be good. Well, that's why we have releases in between pushes to master, I think. So
Yeah.
that should be okay. And then we can um, wait for the package builder to run and then complete this pull request.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Got a thing done, which is nice.
And even some people who watched. I mean, I think
Yes.
now it's only Fariza and Mansour,
Yeah.
and probably me, as I'm also monitoring it on Twitch to see how things go.
Mm. I'm also monitoring on Twitch, I think. Yeah. So there should be four.
So
Yeah.
that
There
gives
should be
us
all
all
of
four.
us. Yeah, exactly. So we know all four people on the Twitch. Um,
Okay. But we did have several people come in. It's like one,
yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people kind of hopped in
Mm.
to see what's going on. And
Hopefully they weren't uh, completely.
apparently we are not that interesting.
Yeah, I guess. We have to think of how to make better content. Um, yeah, okay, and then flow ports can be connected to parameter ports. Yeah, that's definitely no good. But did we fix that?
But I think those were all bugs.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, those are all bugs that were fixed. Okay, cool. So,
Fariza wants to invite more people to watch next time.
yeah, but I think one thing that we probably should do next time is, doing things with circuits instead of just implementing circuits.
I mean, the guy who wanted to know how to do the loop component probably learned something,
Yeah,
or maybe not. I don't know.
yeah. So, well, he's gone now, but essentially, if the idea is, so let's say we had a,
But
um,
I mean, he was there.
yeah, he was there, uh, but yeah, essentially, what this allows you to do is perhaps you could have a, um, I don't know, what about like an MQTT um,
Observer.
pipeline component? Yeah, something like that. Some kind of component like this that uh, I'm not sure if this would be something that would ever return, but maybe it can, right? Like you can just have some way, like if it has a poison pill message that causes it to die, then
Yeah.
that's that, and then it has the pipeline base component, right? Um, and yeah, and then it'd probably have, I don't know, like the message, the received message or something like that. Yeah, put rscv message, which would be an out arg of maybe string or something like that.
And then on every message it receives, it
It
sets
would
that
run.
and runs the entire pipeline.
Yep, exactly. Then definitely need to look into the self.done thing.
Yeah, I think that could be a thing that we could look into in the next stream or so.
Mhm.
Or the code generation, because it isn't
Yeah,
even a
or the
niche.
code. Yeah, so have a nice little MQTT observer. I think it would need what to connect to or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have like this pipeline that would do the thing, and it's essentially a loop. It'll just keep looping through the things, and with that, you can really implement essentially anything you want in here.
Yeah,
And
I think also given that we've now kind of hacked in a way to have variables,
mhm,
um, yeah, we kind of made this very much more flexible just now.
yeah, you can do practically everything that you can do with a global scope. And given that languages like Lua, or maybe not just Lua, but like Bash, right? It didn't have local variables for the longest time, and it can do quite a lot of stuff. So
And you can
yeah,
like put namespaces on variables if you want to here.
yeah,
Just
that's true.
put that in their name. It can be like any string.
Yeah, you could actually have. Now that I think about it, we probably have like a concat component, like string concat component is probably something that we want to have in um, the base thing. Concat string. Definitely something that would be useful to have an A string and a B string and put out, right? Out, which is an out arg stir, and a weird done bool. I think I'll make another pull request for this one because it's definitely something that would be super useful, I think. And arg empty, then we want self dot. Whoops.
Yeah, I mean,
Self.
I can think of how I would use this with the print component to kind of collect several things into one to print them.
Ah, yeah, you actually. I mean, we do support lists, right? So if we made it be like an any, you could like check, is it a list of stuff? Then concatenate everything.
Yeah, that is a different component. That is a join component.
Ah, yeah, we should have a join component too.
But building a list of stuff is kind of yet a different thing again.
I mean, we do have it, right? I think we did. We had a
Yeah,
literal
no, I
list,
mean, yes, we support literal lists, but
but not
how do
building
you
lists.
create
Yeah,
a new list from several output components or like from several out arcs?
good point. So CTX. And did we have typing? Oh, okay. So yeah. So void is none. Right. And I think we probably want to add that in everything. Then self.out.value is equal to self.a plus self.b. And that's a very useful component to have. And then I think in branches, we also want to have none here. Let it be proper about our typing, even though we're very loose about many other things when it comes to these mutable variables. Um, okay, so I think that should be any if that's proper. Set should be none. Right. None there too. That are properly typed. Okay, so I think I would actually maybe want to add those status.
Don't forget to go to a
Maybe,
different branch.
yeah.
Or maybe get the other one merged first.
Yeah, I think we'll get the other one merged first. That's what I'm thinking. Everything's good. We got an approval. We'll merge it. Okay, now.
And it only took like 5 months.
Yes, only took 5 months to merge this thing. So sorry, Adri. But ooh, that's very interesting. Stash, check out master. Then get check out would be more utils. Stash pop. Okay. Now we have that is unfortunate.
Come again?
The white space kind of stuff is kind of unfortunate there. But I think it might be everywhere, so I'm not going to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we get let's see, components. And add typing. What was it called? More utils. Okay, cool. So let's make a new pull request for that.
Oh. Did you run the pilot that Teresa suggested?
Nope. Should I?
Yeah, he says we need to do it.
It's not in. I have to pip
Yeah,
install
okay.
pilot.
Also, any prettier.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I opened it in WebStorm,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, this entire file needs prettier. It's like the circuit body widget file has 2,300 things it complains about.
Oh god.
And it complains essentially about every single line multiple times.
Yeah, I gotta hate it when that happens. It's all style stuff. It's all fashion essentially.
Yeah,
Though very important
it
fashion.
kind of
But
needs to be done once,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
everyone does it.
Some typing and
It's also kind
use.
of
And
Uh,
I think we'll put that this is component library. And maybe new features. And I don't think we probably should test it first, right? So
yeah,
um,
probably.
probably want to test it. Okay, so let's go into our untitled circuits. And
Isn't it nice when it's kind of becomes obvious that code has become spaghetti code?
yes, it's like literal spaghetti. It's a feature.
Yeah.
I seem to have broken something there. Let's reopen it. No, actually, let's refresh this Jupyter Lab, I think. Good idea. Okay, so if I... Oh, why does that not work anymore?
Because that is just a where it should go next.
Yeah, but hold on. So usually when you do this, it
Yeah,
will
you get
the
the
pop-up.
menu.
Right.
Have you restarted the Jupyter Lab server since after switching branches and stuff?
Ah,
It's
that
probably confused.
probably. Yeah, it could be quite confused, I think. So turn that off. Leave here. Now, oh, that still doesn't work.
Uh,
Let me check if I can concat. Things are not connecting anymore.
Wait, what? Can you open the DevTools
See.
and console? Um, that looks. Try a new canvas.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
let's discard these things. Create a new circuits file. Hmm. Hold on. I think maybe because I did change a lot of things, let me
yeah, let's do
rebuild.
the rebuilding and everything.
Yeah, let me just make sure that I didn't forget anything. We'll go back here. Okay, so let's go back
That should.
here, install. And that should be fine, but just to go from the
Yeah.
beginning. So yeah. So once we check to see if I didn't break everything, we can maybe call it a day today.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that too. I mean, it's almost 1 a.m. in the morning for you.
Yes, prime time. There we go. And I guess it's true. Like if we were working on the other branch, that would have been like 160, right?
Yes.
Hmm. So let's go there and let's tell it to not do that anymore. Hmm. I kind of wonder if like if we're parsing, if the parser broke because I implemented this wrong or something like that. That's something that I think could
The parser should
maybe.
be fine. It is using the Python AST module for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not using the crusty JavaScript-based one that never actually worked fully.
I see. Okay, so now things look slightly better. So let's create a new circuits file. That's still not working. What did I do? Can't connect anything anymore. So let's keep that, let that run. Where can we debug that issue? So these 404s, I think.
Yeah, that is
So
format files.
is it like a simple, like I need to refresh and it caches up to date type of thing? No. Okay, so I can't add comments, add hyperparameter stuff.
Hmm.
And if I go to control flow, okay, so I can connect that, but the triangles don't connect. I see. So that might mean that something about the merge has kind of messed that up. So let's go back to here. Now, where was the code for checking the triangles? Is it widget factory or um, let's go back to the GitHub thing here. And before I open that pull request, actually,
Read
this
that.
does have only the things that right. Did Freeze say something?
Yeah, he says he has a feeling that it might be a package update.
Hmm. Package updates. Let's do that. Okay, so let me just first create the pull request, just so that we have that. But let's look at that old pull request that we just merged.
Yeah, I mean, it does have a minus 12,000 lines thing because we removed the tsconfig build info.
Hmm.
And we have removed that, which is fine. That's
Yeah.
empty.
Now that's a commit. I'll tell you, minus 12,000 lines. So this thing was there before. I think that's perfectly fine. And we have more triangle stuff. Let me just check. Okay, so node action commands and then circuits app.ts are the main things we want to look at.
So we do have a thing. Oh, that probably doesn't matter. Right, so there's the run dialog that goes or false. Remove error tip. Only one link per import.
So Freezer saying try re-adding what?
Yeah, what should we re-add for Reza? Oh, the tsconfig. No, like it exists. It's not that it is gone now. That
Actually,
tsconfig should exist.
did run JLPM run,
Yeah,
right?
as you
Yeah, I
can
think
see, it reproduces it.
yeah. And RimRaf is just a way of saying RMRF, but in a cross-platform way. So it just removes it
Yeah,
and re-adds it, so it doesn't really need to be in.
exactly.
So main thing is so I think the fact that you can't connect components is the main that's the main hint because internal stuff works fine.
Yeah, the change is in
Let's put literal false,
something
right? So
front-end
literal true.
related.
Yeah, so that hooks up perfectly fine. And then
It's something
start.
about triangles.
Oh, okay. Well, that worked.
Did it actually connect?
Yeah, we're connected now. So I think we can run it and see if that worked. I did run a JLPM build again. Branch component has no attribute when true. You
Yeah.
lie. Branch
Yeah, it
component.
doesn't. We haven't put anything there. It doesn't know what to do.
Oh, yeah, I see. That is a good point. We do need to put something in the things. Um, I can put a it's
And that's
true.
connect
But this is still
just fine.
broken. Like the connections are just fine, but um, the shortcut of just branching out that did not work. Ooh, any's are not working. I see. That probably is what's happening here.
Come again?
So this is an any port, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's why it's like an underscore inside brackets. And I cannot connect the string into the any. Or no, I did.
You can. It's something about I think if you try to open up this the search widget,
Um,
like if you
oh, okay.
now
Now,
that's
now everything's like
back to
slowly coming back to life. That's so weird. Um, okay. Let's print
so something
normal
is
false.
broken. We just don't know what.
Yes. Like, see, that didn't work. Should have worked. That works. Then this,
Works
let's
for some
try.
reason now.
It's working.
Yeah, we
Okay.
certainly
Let
need
me
to
run it.
give the UI part a once over.
Yeah, there's something up with the state. Either that or it's something more sinister going on. Just select and delete.
Well, it is late anyway,
Yeah.
so I think we'll end it on this cliffhanger.
Yes. That's a funny way of saying we'll have cliffhanger and then call it a day. But it does look like it's working, so it's not like whatever it is, it's weird. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we have created branching components, looping components, we have defined variables, and we have closed a 4-month-old or more branch,
Yeah.
or yeah, pull request. And now circuits can do these things, which makes it way more flexible. And apart from that, I think maybe we have people watching. I don't think we have anybody watching. But the fork, we have a couple of forks, and I always forget how to access those forks. But
You go
the main
to
fork,
Insights and then Forks,
yeah.
and then you can see.
So the virtual brain has getting their 1.0 release ready, so that's good. Wish them luck there. They have a lot of
Oh,
changes
they
with.
have released it 6 hours ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's crazy. And yeah, you can see like the time series results and all sorts of stuff. I really want to try it. They're doing all sorts of crazy stuff over there at the virtual brain.
And
Um,
all of that without variables
yeah, all of it
and
without
groups.
variables. Oh, well, maybe they have done it with. They've implemented a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
um, who knows?
But
So
we
yeah,
really need to do something about the circuit body widget ESX file. It is 2,000 lines of code, one
yeah,
single file.
yeah.
It does
That's
way too much stuff.
way too much stuff. Okay, but anyway, so I think that was fun. We'll probably do
Yeah.
this again next week. Um, yeah, I might do more stuff. I think maybe we can have like a weekend thing, or maybe even like a more goofy thing on the channel as well, like playing some sort of game or whatever. I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
yeah,
mean,
and
just
then this,
yeah, just something like simple,
yeah, exactly.
like figuring out how to play Elden Ring
Yeah, that
without
would be
raging out.
yes, because that's all I can do. It's like, oh my God, oh look, it's a cute little butterfly. Oh, I'm dead. Like I can't even get past the initial thing. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah, but I
mean,
did
I'm
finish
kind of
Cyberpunk
stuck.
2077
I'm
finally.
kind of stuck myself there too,
Mm,
right in front of Godfrey, as they call him, like the
okay.
ghost of not Godfrey, or yeah, somewhere in the middle of the game, kind of.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it's 1 a.m. So we'll end the stream here, and I will see everyone next week, same time, same place. Hopefully with Paul,
Okay.
and we'll figure out what we're going to do next. And
Okay.
yeah, see you guys then.
Bye bye.
See you, everyone. Talk later.